Most people learn the American Revolution as a morality play. Liberty versus tyranny, taxation without representation, patriots rising against oppression. But peel back the mythology, peel back the speeches, the pamphlets, the patriotic glow, and you find something colder, something quieter, something more powerful than ideology. Math. The financial relationship between Britain and its colonies had stopped working. The economics of empire were collapsing, and when an empire's ledger stops balancing, revolt becomes not just possible, but inevitable. America didn't rebel because of slogans. It rebelled because the economic foundation holding the system together had become impossible to sustain. And in the greatest twist, most Americans never learn. The United States was financed into existence by foreign powers who saw the colonies not as freedom fighters, but as leverage. Welcome to Financial Timeline, where money, power, and history collide. And nothing is ever as simple as it looks. To understand 1776, you have to rewind a few decades. Britain had just won the 7 Years' War, a global conflict so large and so expensive it nearly hollowed out the British treasury. Victory came at a catastrophic price: massive national debt, soaring interest payments, a government desperate for revenue. Their solution seemed logical. If defending the empire was expensive, then the colonies should pay for the privilege of being defended. New taxes, new duties, new regulations. Parliament didn't see oppression. They saw accounting. But across the Atlantic, the colonies saw something else: a financial chokehold tightening around their necks while they remained locked out of Britain's financial system. Britain saw the colonies as assets. America saw itself as a hostage. The economic system tying America to Britain was mercantilism. Under it, colonies existed for one reason: to enrich the mother country. That meant you sell only to Britain. You buy only from Britain. You ship using British ships at British rates. Your prosperity flows upstream, not to you, but to London. Even when the colonies prospered, wealth drained across the Atlantic. And when Britain needed money, the colonies became a convenient ATM with no withdrawal limit. But nothing destabilized the colonies more than this: Britain controlled their currency. Most Americans learn about the Tea Act or the Stamp Act. Almost none learn about the Currency Acts of 1751 and 1764. Yet these acts were arguably more explosive. They banned the colonies from printing their own money. The result: credit evaporated. Local economies froze. Farmers and merchants couldn't pay debts. British creditors tightened the noose. This was a colonial form of deflation, a contraction triggered by a shortage of money itself. Imagine running a business in a country where you're not allowed to use your own currency. That was America before independence. People felt like they were being financially suffocated. Ordinary colonists felt it in empty pockets. Elites felt it in collapsing fortunes. George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, many founders were deeply indebted to British merchants. Independence didn't just offer liberty. It offered them a chance to reset their balance sheets. Liberty and liquidity, for once, aligned. Taxes sparked anger. Duties sparked protests. But currency restrictions, those cracked the system. The colonies weren't simply being governed from afar. They were being financially starved. And when everyone from frontier farmers to wealthy merchants feels the same pressure tightening, revolution becomes simple math. But there was one problem. Revolutions cost money. Armies cost money. Gunpowder, food, salaries, ammunition, everything cost money. And the Continental Congress had. Which brings us to the most hidden part of the American origin story. America did not win independence because it was wealthy or It won because Britain's enemies saw a historic opportunity and opened their wallets. France financing through a ghost company. France didn't openly support the colonies at first. Instead, the French foreign minister helped create a fake commercial company. Rodrigue Hortales and Coet's real purpose: covert financing, smuggling arms, and sending gold disguised as normal cargo. The mastermind was Pierre Beaumarchais, a playwright turned clandestine weapons dealer. France wasn't supporting democracy. France was attacking Britain without declaring war. Spain, silver through Havana. Spain couldn't openly support a rebellion against another monarchy, so they funneled silver through Havana, channeling it quietly to the Continental Army. Their goal wasn't freedom. It was revenge. The Dutch, Europe's bankers, bet on America. Amsterdam was the financial capital of Europe. Dutch bankers treated America like a high-risk investment with high potential upside. They bought bonds, extended credit, and quietly legitimized America's presence in international finance. To them, independence was a speculative bet, not a moral cause. Foreign money kept the revolution alive, but inside the colonies, a few key men became the financial engine. Silas Deane, the shadow diplomat. Before independence was even declared, he was in Europe securing arms, deals, and loans. Robert Morris, the merchant, who became a central bank. He personally financed military operations and used his reputation to secure loans when Congress could not. Jaime Salaman, the man who kept the army solvent, a Polish Jewish immigrant who converted foreign loans into cash, and extended credit that kept Washington's army from collapsing. These men don't appear on 4th of July posties, but without them, the revolution would have died long before Yorktown. As foreign money flowed in, Congress printed its own paper currency. The Continental had collapsed. Inflation soared. Soldiers were paid in money, losing value by the month. Civilians hoarded goods instead of currency. And in this chaos, a new financial class emerged. They bought government bonds for pennies on the dollar, betting the new nation would one day redeem them at full value. They were right. And when they won, the foundations of American high finance were born. The revolution didn't just mint a nation, it minted a creditor class. Winning the war wasn't the end. America emerged deeply indebted, desperate for revenue with collapsing paper currency and dependent on foreign creditors. Independence brought sovereignty, but sovereignty brought obligations. France expected trade advantages. Spain demanded restrictions on westward expansion. Dutch bankers demanded fiscal stability. America didn't enter the world as a free actor. It entered as a debtor. We often frame this as ideology. Jefferson's agrarian dream versus Hamilton's centralized financial state. But beneath the philosophy was brutal financial reality. Creditors don't trust decentralization. If America wanted access to European capital, it needed a national bank, federal taxation, assumption of state debts, a unified revenue system, a strong central government. Hamilton won because the creditors demanded stability. Debt didn't just shape policy, it shaped American ideology. To repay foreign debts, America needed real revenue, which meant taxes. And when frontier farmers were hit with a tax on whiskey, the irony was staggering. A country born in rebellion against taxation was now sending federal troops to enforce taxation. The revolution hadn't ended oppression. It had changed who controlled the ledger. When France later demanded military support, invoking the alliance that helped America win independence, the United States refused. Not because it didn't care, but because it couldn't afford another war. It was too indebted, too fragile, too reliant on British trade, too dependent on Dutch credit. Debt dictated American foreign policy. Foreign empires didn't send troops to liberate America. They sent money to weaken Britain. America was the insurgency. The colonies were the battlefield. The British Empire was the target. It was an 18th century proxy war, financed through intermediaries, covert channels, and strategic leverage. Sound familiar? Today, major powers do the same thing. Finance wars arm rebels, support insurgencies, shape global outcomes through loans and credit. The technology changed. The rhetoric changed. The logic did not. The American Revolution wasn't just a fight for liberty. It was a financial collapse of the old system, a power struggle between creditors, a geopolitical opportunity seized by rival empires, a shift in global capital flows, a masterclass in turning foreign rivalry into national independence. America wasn't simply imagined into existence. It was funded into existence, and that is the deeper truth. Nations don't rise on ideals alone. They rise when financial incentives shift. When creditors align, when empires weaken, when money changes direction. The revolution was a political break from Britain, but a financial integration into a new web of global capital. History doesn't repeat, but if you fail to understand it, it'll crush you all the same. If this gave you a new perspective, hit subscribe. History has the answers, and I'll show you where to look.